Welcome back at 45 after the hour. True tales from the battlefield that are so surprising, they're hard to believe.
You know I love this stuff here. Rick Bayard tells them in his new book, The Greatest War Stories Never Told. He's an award-winning documentary producer for the History Channel. I just love that channel. I mean, you have such fascinating things in here. There's this one thing on page 100, the shooting of an elderly pig triggered an international war.
An international incident that almost turned into a war, and it was in 1859 on San Juan Island off the coast of Washington State, contested territory between Britain and the U.S. Settlers from both sides there, a lot of tension. And one day an American named Lyman Cutler gets up in the morning and he sees this pig rooting around in his garden and he's eating his potatoes and he's angry about it. So he has a very typically American solution. He goes back to the house, gets a shotgun, comes out and he shoots the pig. It's a British pig.
Uh-oh.
Big disaster.
It belongs to a British general.
Yeah. Well, it belongs to the British authorities, and you have this thing where they demand restitution. He says they're asking too much. They threaten to arrest him. He and the other side Americans call for military help. Next thing you know, they've got 400 troops dug in on a ridge line and 3 British men of war in the harbor, and it seems like war is imminent.
Over the pig.
Over the pig, until finally cooler heads prevail. And you know who the commander was of the American troops there on San Juan Island? It was a captain who was really thirsting for glory, didn't get it there.
Teddy Roosevelt?
George Pickett.
George Pickett, later of Pickett's charge.
Pickett's charge, Confederate general. So he found plenty of glory later on, I think more than he had his hand before.
Tell us how the French pastry, that croissant, came about.
Croissant. I've been tutored in how to pronounce this.
Croissant.
You got that right, Judge.
John Gibson will love me that I'm pronouncing French properly.
Okay, it's excellent. My family too. Happened in a Turkish siege of Vienna in 1683. The Turkish have besieged Vienna. They're trying to dig in under the walls of the city, and it's the bakers in the middle of the night who hear the Turks tunneling in, and they say, they warn the authorities who come down and repel the underground invasion. And at that point, after that, and eventually the Turks are defeated, and the bakers of Vienna decide to bake a pastry to celebrate the victory and their part in the victory. And the pastry that they make is in the shape of the crescent on the Turkish flag. And so they called it a Kipfel, which is the German word for crescent. But eventually a lovely Viennese girl named Marie Antoinette moved to France, and when she moved to France, they liked her still in France, and so they imported Kipfels, and they called them croissant.
Now, of course, we're on the cutting edge of news here at Fox News Channel. Everybody in the world knows that. We were talking about bees possibly being used to sniff out perhaps bomb devices and the like. But you're saying bees have been used on the battlefield since ancient times.
Since ancient times, and this is by the way, the subject of one of the great lame puns in this book, and it has a few of them in there, which is when faced with the decision to be or not to be, armies...
that is the question.
Okay. Armies have almost always said yes. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
And it's back in Roman times...
How have they used bees?
They put beehives in the catapults. And this is actually, there are some scientists who say they actually depopulated the European bee population by doing that so much. Because you throw a catapult, it's an early sort of anti-personnel device. And it was used in some ship warfare, too, where they throw the beehive down on the deck of the opposing ship.
Rick, we got to go. I mean, this is such interesting stuff here. This one we couldn't get to now. Topless dancer saved the Byzantine Empire. We're going to have to talk about that during a commercial break.
And that's a reason to get this book, to find out how the topless dancer saved the Byzantine Empire. We got a heartbreak coming up. Rick Bayard, the book is The Greatest War Stories Never Told. Go buy it for Christmas. Thanks very much.